Good evening and welcome to Johnny Lee Tonight with Elite News. Not to be confused with Tucker Carlson from Fox News. As a low SMV ethnic, you're probably wondering why constant, non-stop, half-ass sexualizing won't work for you for Daygame if you have lower SMV. To explain, let me tell you about some of my students for my 578 late poll testimonials for Daygame. That would debunk sexualizing it non-stop, which has gotten lower SMVs stuck. I'm not talking about medium SMV guys or high SMV guys. I'm going to do this in the most respectful and tactful way possible when I'm talking about this company. One of my students was a Filipino with 150 lays for Daygame. He was stuck sexualizing it before getting 10 rejections in a row before coaching with me. After coaching with me, he was able to get it from 33 lays past 180 for Daygame, which is roughly around 150 lays. I'm just speaking facts. I have nothing but respect for him, and he was one of my best students who was an easy case or a fast learner. However, I was surprised he worked for this company that sexualized it. And I just told this company right now, and they finally know. I brought them an instructor. Wait, I didn't bring him in, but he went to that company. They used to have like 5 instructors and 2 of them left. What got him laid when I Skyped him and analyzed his infields? Then I realized that he was talking nonstop and not letting her speak. This puts you off the line the more she talks. It gives you no word answers. She doesn't like you, trust you, and be willing to go home with you unless she speaks more. It's not about more comfort. Let's not confuse it with comfort, although I may use that term before on my infields. I use a social skill flow drill consistently and constantly to get her to talk more. I believe the more she talks, the more she likes you, the more she trusts you, and is willing to go home with you. Oftentimes, I cut out these sections of my infields because I don't want you to reverse engineer it. To crowbar her mouth open, metaphorically speaking, getting her to talk more. But I don't want to sound like a psychopath or a misogynist. By the way, I have no diagnosis for psychopathy or autism. If anyone says that, it's slander because I went through a lot of mental assessments, and none of which turned up psychopath or autism. I even went to an Asperger's specialist. I have all the documents to prove it. Otherwise, it would have been defamation of character and slander, which I would vehemently deny and will vehemently defend. The second student was a Chinese student who trained with RSD in the boot camp. He got 1 lay right before he met me, and he was in Spain at the time for Daygame. He didn't get laid for pickup for 5 years. He mostly stuck to Tinder for Latin countries, getting women below his SMV scale using third world money status and exotic advantage of status maxing. That's what the little half-Indian guy said as he was attacking his friend. One day, his friend criticized him when his half-Indian guy said that he should use the system that sexualized it instead of my system. He had to be half-Indian using a word salad pill. That meant false accusations, guilt trips, pain points, and circular reasoning. Of course, he had to be part Indian. Of course. Once I see that, I'm like, oh, another narcissistic sociopath again. That's how Tucker Carlson laughs. He said they should train with this company that sexualized it from that nonstop, which really, really angered me a lot. Well, factually speaking, he went to an Asian island twice for this short half-Indian, and he didn't get laid using that style. He was offered a chance to train with me, Johnny Lee, the world's best Daygame coach, since he was shorter and like 5'6" or something. However, when he attacked me with his bench-holding half-Indian behavior, I blocked him, because I block sociopaths. Indians love to worship this company, many Indians in fact. And I'm not gonna say anything disrespectful to this company. I'm gonna be very respectful and tactful. They seem to be very nice to me. In fact, they even say I'm way better than Todd V and most of the coaches. But they have said some really, really, strange things that are completely untrue. Because they have lay testimonials too. If their lower SMV students are stuck, perhaps they need to learn the fundamentals over here. with Johnny Elite Dating because it's very compatible style. Because we both sexualize it. My system's called the sexual connection, not for like no reason at all. But there might be some things you can learn over here if you have lower SMV and it's just not working for you guys. So I got so angry, saying, okay, I'm gonna smack the two-faced smile off your half-Indian face, metaphorically speaking, of course, because I'm not a psychopath. Maybe some of you using this constant sexualizing system but are stuck too. Just like him, who should come to me because of my training. That really complements your fundamentals. 150 lays in a row for Daygame with my training. Maybe you guys should come over here too. I mean, you think you are stuck now. You are thinking right now, in that country, using more fashion will save you? Huh, it won't. I'll talk about fashion later in this video and how it's not provider status, but husband material. Huh. I said to my Chinese student that he wasn't allowed to leave this island until he gets laid for Daygame under my mentorship. I got him 15 lays in a row, even one in a minute. One in one approach. He also had 5 white girls, 4 models, 2 actresses at the end. At first, he was closing Asian models or Asian women. He had sex with his first white girl who was a Russian when he had stopped using DHV stories. Huh, he always thought that it was impossible. He was sexualizing it nonstop. For the first time, he met her, which got him auto-rejected. But then again, he texted her to come out for a second time. Over and over and over and over and over. Eventually, she agreed to go to the bar and get a drink because I told him exactly what he needed to text, but she was completely turned off in the beginning. Even if he was a millionaire with a good lifestyle, women in general didn't believe him because he was a 5'8" Chinese guy. It didn't seem plausible. Huh. He was saying, oh, you've been to London? Oh, you've been to London? I've been to London too. What country? Did you go? Oh, I went there too. They got so turned off completely because that it doesn't seem to work for lower SMV Asian guys during inflation. When that was removed, the DHV stories, he got compliance and she was on the line. That is like a Jordan Belfort concept. On the line, off the line. She was back on the line because every time he did a DHV story, she was off the line, just like sexualizing it. He just kept getting blown out of one set after another because he was on the line. Or I mean off the line. Okay, and he kept sexualizing it the first time he met, getting one set blown out after another from women. I was wondering, why was he sexualizing it nonstop and giving DHV stories? He later told me the system that he was modeling after. Instead of sexualizing it, I told him to flirt more instead. That's right. He flirted like crazy nonstop, sexualized it later until he got laid with a Russian woman. This was his very first white girl. He wasn't good at flirting since he sounded monotone, but it was perfectly replaced all those times with flirting instead of sexualizing it. Then you have to decide when to maneuver, when to sexualize, and when to deal with objections looping, and many of it during this inflation. Because you're not getting one objection, you're getting 3 in a row these days. Huh, it would have been an automatic close. So, as you can see, constant sexualizing your interaction won't work for lower SMV ethnics in Daygame. Huh, you're off the line in terms of sales. If you're a better product, a white guy, then the better product sexualizing it, if you have medium SMV, then it might work sometimes. Low SMV, she didn't see my student as a sexual person yet until he started to flirt. I mean, as an Asian, you can assume it's sexual all you want, being a short Asian. He's not short, he's 5'8". But that doesn't mean she sees you as a sexual person. Huh. Instead, you should flirt more and decide when to maneuver, when to sexualize it to the max, and deal with objections looping. My students like to flirt once they get her opening up with the social skills flow drill. Huh. This will get you laid faster, and you have a better chance of success. One of the lays later, when he went to Germany, he got a same-day lay in Berlin on his first approach, sexualizing and maneuvering on his first approach. This is more of what I call the first funnel. This is what I'm going to refer it to. However, before the same delay with a blonde or his first approach, he said another blonde, who was pretty by the way, 19 years old. He was impatient because the second funnel is an escalation ladder. It was like a yes ladder for the right brain, the emotional side. Before you think, oh, sexualizing is the way to go, I'm going to show you why it didn't work for somebody very important. You will get her talking more, but you flirt to spike her emotions when she talks more, using the social skill flow drill. Rather than closing after a few dates with her husband material fashion, which would have been the most epic lay of all time, he got impatient and says if he doesn't have sex on the first date, he will lose interest. That's the problem, because he was using the first funnel at a different part of Germany. If he was patient with enough comfort, he would have got laid with her. She just needed a little bit more time. Okay, he lost her, but he closed the other one in Berlin on the first approach. But he learned a lot of the first funnels in the second funnels, which is more getting her to open up than using a yes ladder to deal with her right brain. That's right. Because it's a very emotional type of game, and the comfort is to make sure she doesn't freak out. Some women will freak out, so the sexualizing doesn't work for them, as you'll strike out over and over if she's not a yes girl. The other one is maneuvering, sexualizing it, and objections looping, and pushing it as far as you can go as fast as possible, which was more my older game style. It's a more logical left brain funnel. Fast forward to the future. He was able to get laid with 2 actresses in a public trailer because he was well trained. One of them, he used the first funnel with no DHV stories, of course, but they know him and his wealth at the time due to social media, unlike the other women because he was acting in the movie, which is great. However, he had to use a second funnel with the second Asian and half French woman. He had to get her talking more instead of being a little rocket man, pushing it super fast with the funnel 1. He took his time, and gets her to talk more. Of course, he still sexualized it as he went up the escalation ladder, but he was able to close her and she became his girlfriend. She's an actress too, by the way, which is amazing because using funnel 2, which still has a sexualized component in it, he used this escalation ladder. He built more comfort by getting her to talk more. And that's what got him his girlfriend. Had he used the funnel 1 of the other company of sexualizing it nonstop, she would have been gone. So you have to choose which funnel you're going to use depending on the women. There's no one-size-fits-all solution. They're both very effective if you learn which one to use. So I remember doing the same thing with this 18-year-old girl who was 5'11" and very pretty. I met her on the transit, on the SkyTrain, then on the bus. She was French, not Asian, even though she looks a little bit Asianish, but she's not. I talked in a very beta way because I didn't want to scare her at nighttime. I mean, who would? In their right mind, except a psychopath, which I'm not. Sometimes you can be so dominant you are off the line trying to be cool. Sometimes you have to risk eagerness, like water, since water is adaptable where you can sound beta and escalate like crazy, like Bruce Lee says. Water can flow or water can crash. Regardless, I needed her to be more comfortable, getting her talking more, as I lightly flirt when she does talk more. At this time, I read her palm, but this was before. I don't use palm reads anymore. However, as soon as we left, I talked about the idea of steep tea. It's the best steep tea ever. And trust me, I use it in my other infield, which I use a lot of, I wouldn't say comfort, but getting them to open up more. Because you can choose when to sexualize it. You don't have to always sexualize it in the middle of the date over and over constantly, because that will put you off the line. So she went to Shoppers Drug Mart, the grocery pharmacy store in Canada, where I sexualized it because I bought a box of condoms in front of her. That's right. Yes, I do sexualize it. As I said, I choose when to sexualize it. In this case, in the middle of the Insta date, I got her objections out as I continued maneuvering her. She was worried that someone else posted clips about her before, and it hurt her reputation. but I told her not to worry. Well, you know. She later asked me if I was a serial killer, and I told her I'm a lover, not a fighter, and I hugged her. And then that won over her trust, where she maneuvered me to her home, where I proceeded to have sex with her for over 45 minutes. And I posted some of the sex, or the clip, in one of my infields on YouTube. Not the whole thing, because it'll be 45 minutes. And I'm known to last very long in bed. But this was clearly funnel 2. This was not funnel 1, since that wouldn't work if I sexualized it nonstop during a SkyTrain and on a bus. It depends on the women, so there are 2 funnels. The next student also got laid with just body language, and he didn't learn how to flirt or tease yet, or sexualized it, as you can hear in his testimonial.
And the funny thing is, I didn't even learn anything about game yet. So far, he's only taught me social skills. Fashion, how to stand, body posture, and social skills. No game, because I do not know how to flirt yet. I do not know how to tease yet. I mean, he was still able to guide me through everything and got my first lay, so.
You got a white girl with just body language, which already flirts by itself and sexualizes it. So you don't need to sexualize it so much. I also want to talk about further misconceptions about fashion by explaining about the 6 frames. So my student and I are not dressing like a provider, as they said, but a husband material frame. But they all dress the same for my students, so it's not a provider frame. The 6 frames are number 1, the fuckboy frame. Self-explanatory in terms of fashion. You use that for Tinder, more power to you. Tinder doesn't require as much skills as Daygame, neither is Nightgame. Of course, not everyone could do Daygame. They might be stuck with Tinder. The boyfriend-girlfriend provider frame, a frame of romance. Unless you fit in with a boyfriend material frame, it wouldn't be effective. You will always have to wrestle with drunk women in the bedroom by bringing out the alcohol or champagne bottles and use romance as a hook to get her there to the pull location. Then you wrestle with her until when she's drunk to bypass consent, which I totally do not condone. But other people teach it just like that, and their students does it too. The next one is the social circle friend zone frame, which this is not part of, because they dress well, they'll be friend zone, but that's not true at all. Husband material frame. This is the frame because most women wants to get married one day. You may be a low SMV Asian student or Indian with absolutely no value. This is not to be confused with Indian guys, as I know one that could use this style of sexualizing it constantly, because he doesn't look Indian at all. He looks like a white guy who is very, very good looking. And he thinks it works in different countries because he's in Sweden, and this equals that, exotic advantage over there. Because he's the only one in different ethnicity, but outside of him and the other short Indian, half Indian guy who used this before the pandemic, husband material actually gets my students laid in 1 to 6 approaches. 578 laid poll testimonials to be exact. Then there's a daddy-daughter frame, which is seeking stupidity bullshit. Then you got the high status and celebrity frame. All my students who gets laid wears the same fashion as husband material. It's not about the provider frame. They are whitewashed and also husband material. For example, if they're whitewashed, it not only increases their looks, it increases their money, but it also increases their status. Because if they look like they're Indian, for example, they can look like different ethnicities. If they are 4 out of 10 for a whitewashed Indian, or if they look like a different ethnicity, like a Latino or a different ethnicity like black, then their points go up. So let's take one example with the 3 lays in a row who has done it on the first approach 3 times in a row. A 52-year-old student who got laid with a 21-year-old, she's 8.5 out of 10, which is more impressive than other white dating coaches like Don John in Germany, 25 years old, and this person was a Persian, and another 21-year-old, a white woman. He's a bald 52-year-old student who was overweight with a triple chin, by the way. All he used was body language and social skills flow drill to get her to talk more. When she saw indicators of social skills and social calibrations, she immediately got wet for all of them because he pulled very fast and closed them very quickly. And he did this many times over. It was the same story that you don't need to sexualize it or even flirt that much. With a perfect body language, you are on the line. And sometimes, what you think is perfect body language, when you're squaring off and trying to look too alpha, you look too much like a pickup artist. That's right. If you look too much like a pickup artist, now you're going to have to face an uphill battle trying to impress her. I'm not trying to impress her. I want her to think the seduction was all natural. It just happened. It just happened out of nowhere, and I want to make it seem like it was her idea, not to be too manipulative. That's why I'd sometimes have imperfect body language on purpose. Because sometimes when you're too alpha, it doesn't make her comfortable, puts you off the line. Those times for those infills may not have happened if I tried to be too dominant. So another white student had 10 fuck buddies in a row. A fivesome from Daygame, not Night Game or not Tinder, 2 models and 1 model girlfriend, just by using the social skill flow drill and body language. He didn't need to flirt as much. He wears the same fashion as my other students. But he was suicidal using Todd V's game in London Daygame. Well, at least they think I'm way better than Todd V. So, after 578 late poll testimonials, if you want to disagree with me, disagree with my student results. Because I factually have more even with low SMV guys. Like I said, I hope I said all this tactfully and respectfully. This is Tucker Carlson of Fox News. This is John. Subscribe to the John Elite YouTube channel to catch my Daygame news debunking non-transferable concepts that are changing the Daygame world and changing your life. With more late testimonials for Daygame than every dating coach in the world combined. I'm John Elite Tonight.